The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, a series of pulses, mathematical in nature, unmistakably artificial, and definitely not from Earth. The Deep Space Monitoring Station in Nevada was the first to detect it, followed quickly by stations in China, Russia, and Australia. Jack Weston was eating breakfast when his comm unit buzzed. As captain of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Force, unexpected calls rarely brought good news. "Captain, you need to see this," said the voice of his second-in-command. Within an hour, Weston stood in the command center of the SDF headquarters, staring at the main screen where the alien transmission played on loop. Scientists and military personnel moved about with urgent purpose. "They'll enter our solar system in approximately 72 hours, said General Laura Hayes, pointing to the trajectory map. "Their velocity suggests advanced propulsion we can only dream about." Weston nodded, his face betraying no emotion. "And we're sure they've seen us." "No doubt. The transmission is directly addressed to Earth. Basic mathematical sequences followed by what we believe are greeting protocols." The United Earth Coalition assembled an emergency session. Representatives from all major nations gathered virtually as scientists presented their findings. The alien fleet, at least 30 vessels of various sizes, had been designated as Crixian, based on repeating sound patterns in their transmission. "We need a first contact team," said the coalition chairperson. "Captain Weston, you'll lead the diplomatic mission." Weston looked around the table. "We still know nothing about their intentions, which is why we're sending Dr. Olivia Martinez with you," the chairperson replied, nodding toward a woman with intense eyes and a calm demeanor. "Best xenolinguist on the planet." 3 days later, the Earth delegation vessel approached the designated meeting point in high orbit. The Crixian ships had arrived early, sleek vessels with curved hulls that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Dr. Martinez worked tirelessly, analyzing the incoming signals. "They have a hierarchical communication structure," she explained to Weston as they prepared to dock with the neutral meeting vessel. "Certain patterns indicate authority, others deference." "Can we communicate effectively?" Weston asked. "Enough to understand basic intentions. The rest will come with time." The meeting chamber was sparse, designed by both species based on agreed-upon specifications. The Crixians entered from the opposite airlock, tall, six-limbed beings with iridescent skin and compound eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Through Martinez's translation interface, the conversation began cautiously. The Crixians called themselves shepherds of order and spoke of their vast dominion across 17 star systems. 6 hours into the talks, the true purpose emerged. "They want Mars," Martinez whispered to Weston. "They're claiming rights to all uninhabited planets in our system." "Mars has colonies," Weston replied sharply. Martinez listened to the Crixian delegate's lengthy response. "They consider our presence there insufficient. They're offering to let us keep Earth and the Moon if we abandon Mars and its resources." Back on Earth, the coalition fractured immediately. Some nations advocated immediate military response, others for yielding to superior technology. A few suggested deception, apparent compliance while building defenses. "They've done this before," said Dr. Martinez during the emergency briefing. "I detected linguistic patterns suggesting this is a standard procedure for them. First contact, demands, then something they wouldn't translate clearly." Captain Weston stood at the viewport of the defense headquarters, watching clouds pass over the Pacific. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries. Now it had come, and with it, humanity's first interstellar ultimatum. "Begin evacuation protocols for the Mars colonies," he ordered, "and get me everything we have on Crixian ship vulnerabilities." Everything. The game had begun. Chief Negotiator Alan Summers tugged at his collar as the air recyclers in the meeting chamber struggled against the rising tension. Across the table, the lead Crixian diplomat clicked its mandibles, a gesture Dr. Martinez had interpreted as impatience. 3 weeks of talks, and they were getting nowhere. "We have occupied this system for thousands of your years," The Crixian's translated voice echoed. Your species only recently learned to leave your atmosphere. Summers leaned forward. But Mars is home to over 30,000 humans. We've built cities there. Temporary structures, dismissed the Crixian. Easily relocated. Outside the chamber, Lieutenant Kate Donovan slipped a data chip to one of the technical staff. While officially serving as security for the Earth delegation, Donovan had spent the past week infiltrating the Crixian vessel systems. Got something, she whispered to Captain Weston when she returned to her post. 6 other species, 6 other solar systems. Same playbook every time. Weston's face remained impassive, but his eyes hardened. Casualties. Total. The ones who surrendered and the ones who fought. Back on Earth, the Coalition war room hummed with activity. Screens displayed the positions of the Crixian fleet, now spread throughout the system, with their largest vessels hovering near Mars. We have 28 days before their ultimatum expires, General Hayes announced to the assembled military leaders. Options. Defense Minister Frank Reyes stood up. Conventional weapons are useless against their shields. Our best ships would be destroyed before getting close. Then we need unconventional weapons, said a voice from the back. All heads turned toward Sam Russell, the disheveled engineer who had been analyzing Crixian technology. He stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Their shields operate on a frequency modulation that's actually pretty simple once you understand the pattern. I think we can adapt our own systems to match and counter. Hayes frowned. Can we build anything effective in 4 weeks? Russell smiled for the first time in days. We don't have to build everything from scratch. We've already got the basic platforms. On the diplomatic vessel, negotiations deteriorated further. The Crixians seemed to be losing interest in talk. Your species speaks too much and decides too little, the Crixian delegate said. Perhaps you need motivation. The next day, the Phobos mining outpost, Mars' outer moon, erupted in flames visible from the planet's surface. The 500 colonists stationed there had been evacuated just hours before, thanks to Donovan's intelligence. A demonstration. The Crixian announced when communications resumed. The next will not be empty. Summers stood up slowly. I believe these negotiations have concluded. The Earth delegation returned home to a changed political landscape. The coalition had voted. War preparations would commence immediately, but under complete secrecy. We cannot win a direct confrontation, Weston told the Emergency Council. But Lieutenant Donovan's intelligence gives us an edge they don't expect. Dr. Martinez presented her findings. The Crixians don't just conquer, they harvest. Resources, technology, biological samples. Each system they've taken has been stripped bare. Mars is just the beginning. In underground facilities across Earth, Russell's shield modifications were being installed on every spacecraft capable of combat. The largest industrial centers had been converted to produce the weapons he designed. We need time, the defense minister warned. At least 2 months to fully prepare. Weston exchanged glances with Donovan and Martinez. Then we'll give you time. That night, Earth's response to the Crixian ultimatum was transmitted. A formal message announcing the evacuation of all Mars colonies and acceptance of Crixian terms. You're surrendering. General Hayes asked incredulously when Weston informed her. No, Weston replied, looking at the tactical display of the solar system. We're changing the battlefield. The Crixians had won the negotiations, but negotiations weren't the war. The evacuation of Mars unfolded in full view of the Crixian observers. Transport ships moved between the Red Planet and Earth in an orderly procession, each filled with colonists and their belongings. Mining equipment was dismantled. Habitation domes powered down. Within 2 weeks, satellite imagery showed Mars returning to its desolate state. From the command deck of the Crixian flagship, Supreme Commander Vorax watched with satisfaction. The humans surrender their claim more quickly than anticipated, he remarked to his subordinates. Perhaps they are more reasonable than our intelligence suggested. Beneath the surface of Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter, Major Greg Hoffman supervised a very different operation. Hundreds of military personnel moved through the newly expanded caverns, setting up command stations and weapon systems. Status on the Ghost Array. Hoffman asked his communications officer. 80% operational, sir. We can monitor all Crixian communications without detection. Hoffman nodded. And our own signals. Completely dark, as ordered. Nothing gets out. On Earth, the public narrative supported the Mars withdrawal. News broadcasts showed refugee processing centers and integration programs. Military leaders made solemn statements about peaceful coexistence, while political figures spoke of necessary compromise. Commander Nickel Baker stood in the underground war room beneath the Pacific Ocean, addressing 50 hand-picked officers. As of 800 tomorrow, Ghost Protocol goes into full effect, she announced. All military communications will cease. All defense satellites will go dormant. Earth will appear, for all monitoring purposes, to be completely demilitarized. One officer raised his hand. And if the Crixians attack during this blackout? Baker's expression remained firm. They won't. Their pattern is consistent. They believe they've won. They'll focus on Mars first. The next day, Earth went silent. Civilian communications continued normally, but any military or defense-related transmissions simply stopped. Tracking stations showed defense satellites powering down. Naval vessels returned to port. Aircraft remained grounded. The Crixian response was immediate confusion. They cannot have dismantled their entire defense network. Vorax insisted as his analysts presented the data. It must be a deception. Our scans show no active military systems, replied his second-in-command. Their orbital platforms are dormant. Their weapons systems powered down. And their communications? Nothing. Complete silence. Vorax paced the command deck. Send probes. I want visual confirmation. In a hidden facility beneath the Mojave Desert, head scientist Daniel Garcia made final adjustments to the prototype drive system. Based partly on Crixian technology observed during the negotiations, and partly on theoretical work that had been deemed impossible just months earlier, the system promised speeds 5 times greater than anything humanity had achieved. Will it work? Captain Weston asked, watching as engineers installed the drive into the first of the new combat vessels. Garcia wiped sweat from his brow. In theory, yes. In practice, we'll find out when we fire it up. The Crixian probes found exactly what Vorax feared. Nothing. Military bases stood empty. Weapon silos had been decommissioned. The humans appeared to have completely abandoned their defensive posture. They're surrendering the entire system, his advisor suggested. Not just Mars. No species simply gives up, Vorax muttered. Send messages. Demand explanation. Earth received the demands but offered no response. Day after day, the Crixian messages grew more insistent, then threatening, then almost pleading. Still, silence. As the Crixians began landing on Mars, establishing their own bases amid the abandoned human structures, telescope arrays throughout the asteroid belt tracked their every move. Every communication was intercepted, every weakness noted. They're completely focused on Mars now, Hoffman reported to the War Council, just as predicted. And our fleet? Baker asked. Assembly proceeding on schedule. 26 vessels operational. In the darkness of space, humanity prepared its answer to the Crixian ultimatum. Not with words, but with silence, the deadly silence that comes before the storm. The Crixians wasted no time claiming their prize. 3 massive mining platforms descended to the Martian surface, boring deep into areas once deemed off-limits by human environmental protocols. Their harvesters stripped rare minerals with ruthless efficiency, leaving scars visible from orbit. Production exceeds estimates by 30%, reported the mining overseer to Vorax. The humans were inefficient in their extraction methods. Vorax nodded absently, his compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. And still no response from Earth. None, Supreme Commander. Our probes show they've reduced industry output. Many population centers show decreased energy consumption. Some analysts suggest they may be preparing for interstellar travel. Impossible. Vorax dismissed. Their technology is decades from such capability. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune's orbit, Captain Jack Weston floated in zero gravity alongside the growing human fleet. Here, among the distant ice bodies, Earth had hidden its true response. An armada unlike anything humanity had previously constructed. Hull plating complete on the Defiance, reported a technician through Weston's earpiece. Shield generators online and functional. Weston pushed himself toward the nearest viewport. Outside, construction drones swarmed around the largest vessel in the fleet, a destroyer nearly twice the size of anything Earth had previously built. "Time estimate?" he asked. 3 more days, Captain. We're installing Russell's modified weapons systems now." In a cramped laboratory aboard the command ship, Dr. Olivia Martinez worked tirelessly with a team of linguists and cryptographers. Screens around them displayed intercepted Crixian communications. "I've identified patterns in their tactical codes," she announced, highlighting sequences on her display. "Their encryption is advanced, but follows specific mathematical progressions." Her senior analyst looked up. "Can we break it completely?" Martinez nodded. "Better. We can predict it. Each new key follows the previous in a recognizable sequence. We'll be able to decrypt their communications in real time during battle." Elsewhere in the belt, Lieutenant Kate Donovan guided her stealth reconnaissance craft between Crixian patrol routes. Her vessel, barely larger than a shuttle, but equipped with advanced cloaking technology, had been mapping Crixian movements for weeks. "Their patrol patterns are becoming predictable," she reported back to Major Hoffman. "They concentrate defenses around their mining operations, but leave their supply routes lightly guarded." On her navigation screen, she marked another vulnerability, a blind spot in their sensor network. "They're getting complacent. They truly believe we've given up." Engineer Sam Russell floated in the engine room of the flagship, supervising the integration of adapted Crixian technology. What had begun as theoretical modifications had evolved into hybrid systems that matched or exceeded Crixian capabilities. "Power output stable at 120%, one of his engineers called out. "Heat signature within acceptable parameters." Russell allowed himself a small smile. "Begin weapons integration. I want full compatibility testing by tomorrow." Back on Mars, the Crixians expanded their operations. Their command center, established in what was once the main human settlement, buzzed with activity. But among the chatter of mining reports and expansion plans, concerns were growing. "Another energy spike detected near the outer system," reported a sensor officer, similar to the previous anomalies. The Crixian commander waved dismissively. "Solar radiation effects on our instruments. Nothing more." "The pattern seems artificial," the officer persisted, "and our long-range scouts report unusual debris concentrations in the Kuiper region." Commander Vorax received these reports with increasing irritation. "Send a detachment to Earth. I want visual confirmation of their status. No more sensor readings, no more probes. I want eyes on their major cities." As the Crixian scouts departed for Earth, they passed unaware through a web of human sensor platforms. Each movement was tracked, each communication intercepted. The Crixian belief in their victory grew stronger even as the trap closed around them. In the darkness of the outer system, Captain Weston addressed the commanders of the hidden fleet. "The Crixians believe we've surrendered," he said, his voice carrying to every ship. "In 3 days, we'll show them how wrong they are." The Crixian scouts entered Earth orbit with weapons armed, expecting resistance despite all evidence to the contrary. Instead, they found something far more puzzling. "Confirm these readings," the scout leader demanded, staring at his display. His sensor officer worked the controls frantically. "Confirmed, Commander. Large vessels departing Earth orbit, heading toward interstellar space." The scouts tracked the massive ships as they slowly accelerated away from the solar system. Each vessel was enormous, clearly colony ships designed for long-term habitation. Earth's major cities showed reduced power signatures, with some areas appearing completely abandoned. When the scouts returned to Mars, Supreme Commander Vorax received their report with growing satisfaction. "They flee rather than fight," he announced to his war council. "The humans abandoned their home system entirely." His chief strategist appeared less convinced. "It seems unprecedented. No species has ever simply departed without resistance. Because no species has faced our might with such clarity of understanding," Vorax replied. "They recognize the futility of resistance. They choose survival over extinction." The Crixian Empire expanded its operations throughout the system. Mining operations began on Mercury. Automated refineries were established in Venus orbit. The asteroid belt became dotted with harvesting stations. Yet far from the celebrating Crixians, in the shadows of Jupiter's moons, Major Greg Hoffman led a series of precise strikes against Crixian supply lines. His special forces teams, equipped with stealth technology and Russell's modified weapons, disabled cargo vessels without leaving evidence of attack. "Make it look like equipment failure," Hoffman instructed his teams. "No debris, no weapons signatures." The Crixian logistics officers reported increasing equipment malfunctions. Supply shipments failed to arrive. Communication relays experienced unexplained outages. The pattern was too subtle to raise alarms, but sufficient to create inefficiencies and confusion. In the command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Nickel Baker coordinated the final positioning of Earth's hidden fleet. Holographic displays showed the locations of all Crixian forces throughout the system. "They've spread themselves thin," she observed, highlighting their dispersed assets. "Exactly as we hoped." A communications officer approached with a tablet. "Final confirmation from Captain Weston. All ships in position. Strike fleet ready." Baker studied the display one final time. "Signal the colony ships. Begin Phase 5. In deep space, the massive vessels that had been observed leaving Earth suddenly changed course. Rather than continuing toward distant stars, they executed a complex series of maneuvers, positioning themselves in a wide arc beyond Mars orbit. Their engines, previously operating at minimum power, suddenly flared to life with unexpected energy signatures. On the Crixian flagship, sensor alarms blared. "Unknown energy readings from the human colony vessels," reported the officer. "They've altered course and appear to be returning." Vorax studied the readings personally. "These cannot be colony ships. The energy output is too high." "Sir," interrupted another officer, "we're detecting similar energy signatures from the Kuiper Belt region. Multiple sources, approaching rapidly." In the darkness beyond Neptune, Captain Weston gave the command that humanity had been preparing for weeks. "All ships, full power. Execute Battle Plan Alpha." The hidden armada emerged from concealment, engines burning with impossible brightness. Not the handful of primitive vessels the Crixians had expected, but a fleet of 60 warships equipped with hybrid technology that matched Crixian capabilities. As the Crixians scrambled to understand this sudden reversal, the massive colony ships revealed their true nature, heavily armed dreadnoughts that had been disguised to facilitate the deception. Supreme Commander Vorax stared at the tactical display as red warning indicators multiplied across the system. The humans had not fled in fear. They had not surrendered their home. They had simply walked away to better prepare for war. "All forces, defensive positions," he ordered, but even as he spoke, he recognized the fatal error of his overconfidence. The human fleet closed in from all sides, and Earth remained silent still. Captain Jack Weston stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution, as the tactical display showed the human fleet emerging from their hidden positions. A perfect encirclement was forming around the scattered Crixian forces. "All ships maintain formation," he ordered calmly. "Weapons hot, but hold fire until my command." The Crixian response was immediate but disorganized. Their vessels, spread across the solar system in peaceful occupation, scrambled to defensive positions. Emergency signals flashed between their ships as they attempted to regroup. "They're trying to consolidate around Mars," reported the tactical officer, "abandoning their outposts in the asteroid belt." Weston nodded. "As expected. Lieutenant Donovan, are you in position?" Through the secure channel came Donovan's steady voice. "Strike team in position, Captain. We have target lock on their communication relay stations." The Crixian command structure relied on advanced quantum communication networks. For weeks, Donovan's reconnaissance had mapped every relay, every node, every backup system. "Execute," Weston ordered. Across the Martian surface and throughout near orbit, small explosions bloomed as precision strikes disabled the Crixian communication infrastructure. Not enough to destroy their fleet, but sufficient to fragment their command capabilities. In the war room on Earth, Dr. Martinez monitored the Crixian communications frequencies. "Now," she said to her team, "initiate the frequency disruption." The human fleet began broadcasting on precisely calculated wavelengths, creating interference patterns that matched the rhythm of Crixian communications. Their remaining channels filled with static and fragmented signals. Supreme Commander Vorax struggled to coordinate his forces as reports came in garbled and incomplete. How did they develop such technology? He demanded of his science officer. Their capabilities were assessed as primitive. "They adapted our own systems," came the horrified reply as analysis completed. "These are our designs, modified, and turned against us." The first direct engagement occurred near Deimos, Mars' smaller moon. 3 Crixian destroyers faced off against a pair of human vessels. The Crixians fired first, energy weapons lashing out across the void. Engineer Sam Russell stood in the weapons control room of the human destroyer Defiance, watching as the incoming blasts struck their shields. "Shield integrity holding at 97%, he announced, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "Countermeasures functioning perfectly." The human vessels returned fire. Their weapons, hybrid designs combining Crixian energy technology with human ingenuity, sliced through the unprepared Crixian defenses. "Their shields are calibrated to resist their own weapon frequencies," Russell explained as data streamed in. "We've modified ours just enough to bypass their protection." Major Hoffman's ground forces, hidden among the abandoned human settlements on Mars, launched their assault on the main Crixian base. Their armor, designed to mimic Crixian thermal signatures, allowed them to approach within striking distance before being detected. "All teams, execute Pattern Omega," Hoffman ordered as his soldiers breached the perimeter. "Capture the mining control center intact." The Crixian forces on Mars, expecting an orbital bombardment, were unprepared for ground assault. Hoffman's teams moved through their compound with surgical precision, disabling defenses and securing critical infrastructure. In orbit, the encirclement tightened. The human fleet had positioned itself to cut off all retreat paths. The false colony ships, now revealed as massive dreadnoughts, formed an outer barrier beyond which no Crixian vessel could pass. Commander Baker coordinated the movement from Earth. "All sectors report ready, Captain Weston. The net is complete." The Crixian flagship, surrounded by its remaining escort vessels, attempted to rally their scattered forces. Vorax recognized the tactical disaster unfolding around him. "Open a channel to the human commander," he ordered. "Offer ceasefire terms." His communications officer worked frantically at his station. "No response, Supreme Commander." "They're receiving but not acknowledging." On the bridge of the Retribution, Weston received the Crixian message with cold indifference. "No response necessary," he told his communications officer. "They understand our terms already." The human fleet continued its advance, methodical and unstoppable. No threats, no demands, no ultimatums, just the silent, implacable approach of a civilization that had been underestimated for the last time. "All ships," Weston commanded, "commence firing sequence." The darkness of space lit up as hundreds of weapons discharged simultaneously from all directions. The encirclement was complete, and mercy was not part of the equation. The Crixian flagship shuddered as another volley struck its weakening shields. On the command deck, emergency lighting cast crimson shadows across panicked faces. Supreme Commander Vorax gripped his command chair as systems failed around him. Shields at 18%, reported his tactical officer. 2 escort vessels destroyed. 3 more heavily damaged. Vorax stared at the tactical display. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, each strike precisely calculated. No wasted energy, no missed opportunities. Their attack pattern left no opening for escape. Continue broadcasting surrender signals, he ordered. Offer them the Mars territory. Offer them anything. His communications officer worked desperately at his console. No response, Commander. They receive our transmissions but send nothing in return. The human fleet maintained its perfect silence. The only message was the relentless progression of their assault. Captain Weston watched from the Retribution's bridge as the battle unfolded according to plan. Status reports flowed in from all sectors of the operation. Major Hoffman reports Mars ground facilities secured, announced his second in command. Mining operations neutralized. Crixian ground forces contained. Target achieved. They've disabled the Crixian flagship's jump drive. No escape possible. The Crixian fleet, once so confident in their technological superiority, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Their weapons, devastating against less advanced civilizations, barely penetrated the adapted shields of the human vessels. Their tactics, successful in countless previous conquests, failed against an enemy who had studied their every weakness. On Earth, Commander Baker monitored the operation from the war room. Military and civilian leaders had gathered to witness the culmination of their strategy. The Crixians are broadcasting surrender terms, she informed the assembled officials. They offer to withdraw completely from our system. Their previous victims received similar offers, replied the defense minister. None survived to tell about it. Baker nodded grimly. Captain Weston requests final authorization to proceed with Phase 7. The room fell silent. After weeks of preparation, months of deception, the moment had arrived. The coalition chairperson stood. Authorization granted. No terms, no prisoners, no mercy. Baker activated the secure channel. Captain Weston, you have coalition approval. Execute Phase 7. On the Retribution, Weston received the confirmation with a solemn nod. He opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Captain Weston. Execute final attack pattern. No quarter offered or accepted. His communications officer hesitated. Sir, they're still broadcasting surrender terms. Should we acknowledge? Weston's expression remained unchanged. Our only response has already been sent. Throughout the solar system, human vessels closed in on their assigned targets. The encirclement contracted like a noose. Crixian ships, unable to coordinate their defense, fell one by one to the precisely targeted strikes. Supreme Commander Vorax watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet disintegrated around him. What message did they send? He demanded. What terms have they offered? His tactical officer pulled up the only transmission received from the humans since the attack began. 3 words, broadcast once, at the start of the engagement. No talks, no mercy. The Crixian flagship, last of their great vessels, found itself surrounded by 5 human destroyers. Its shields failed under the combined assault. Its weapons fell silent as power systems collapsed. Vorax stood on his burning bridge, finally understanding the fatal error his empire had made. They had mistaken patience for weakness, preparation for surrender, strategic withdrawal for fear. 3 days later, Captain Weston stood before the Coalition Council. The Crixian threat had been eliminated completely. Not a single vessel had escaped to warn their empire. The outer system defense network is operational, he reported. Early warning systems extend beyond Neptune. We'll have advance notice of any future incursions. And what message have we sent to the galaxy? Asked the chairperson. Weston's expression remained grave. That humans do not negotiate with aggressors. We do not fight on enemy terms. We walk away, we prepare, and when we return, we show no mercy. Throughout the known galaxy, The story spread among spacefaring civilizations. Earth had been approached by the dreaded Crictians, whose empire had consumed 6 worlds before them. The humans had appeared to surrender, even abandon their homeworld. Then they had returned and left nothing of their would-be conquerors. The lesson was clear. Humanity would not be threatened. Humanity would not be conquered. And humanity would never, ever show mercy to those who tried.